You know, and this is an intelligent, ordinarily aware person, but our whole society says to us, computers are for boys.
And so it's up to our educational system to make sure that we introduce the things in a way that does not have that orientation toward one child or the other.
Okay, now your program is called Equals at the Lawrence Hall of Science, and I saw some startling numbers. I think you call them startling statistics, which shows why equals is probably a good word. I think 7% of home computer users are women, 5% of the subscribers to Byte are women, 2% of PC buyers are women. Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure that I can explain all the various reasons why that is. I mean, our culture says it to girls when they're very young. You open the magazines and you find pictures of men. You open that manual for the Macintosh, and every entry picture is of a male. And so there are many, many reasons why. But I think what we have to accept is we need to do something about it. If awareness is a very important thing, then parents need to be aware, teachers need to be aware, and in designing the program, actually Equals, directed by Nancy Kreinberg, started in 1977 as a teacher education program in mathematics, and it has developed in a number of ways: family math, Equals in computer technology.
Okay, what kind of software do you use in your Equals program?
I brought along Gertrude's Secrets, which is from the Learning Company and is used widely by teachers who are aware of the need for software that is bias-free, that is interesting to girls as well as to boys, and those are some of the things we look for.
So how does Gertrude's Secrets really accomplish that?
Well, a lack of violence. I think that's something that girls have done for us in a way. Many girls do not want the violent games, the war games and so forth. And so we as teachers have the opportunity to say, hey, I'm not going to have that in my classroom. And so the ideas that are presented are things that both girls and boys enjoy. And the learning outcomes are important for both, particularly important for girls, because attribute games such as this, spatial relationships have been an area where girls have had particular difficulty, and apparently they have very different experiences as little kids. And so if girls are school dependent for this learning, it's important for us to have it.
Okay, there's another project aimed at training women in computers, and it's called the Women's Computer Literacy Project in San Francisco, and Wendy Woods has a report on that.
All these women have one thing in common. They know nothing about computers. They're at the Women's Computer Literacy Project in San Francisco, an intensive two-day school for women only in which Deborah Brecker teaches the basics in a unique and controversial way. Deborah Brecker has written the Women's Computer Literacy Handbook, in which she contends that women learn differently from men. Men, she says, can memorize a set of instructions and then follow them. But women, she says, require an understanding of the concepts and the machines before they can fool around with them.
I've been looking in research actually to see, you know, is that true? Am I the only person that notices these things? And what I saw is in game theory, what they point out is that boys learn rule games really young, right? Girls are doing process games. They're playing dolls. They're not rules, right? And so it's, I think that patterning, that early childhood patterning, leads into gender differences about how styles of learning.
So what the women get are analogies. Brecker compares a buffer to a filling bathtub, RAM memory to mailboxes.
Because the class is all women, there's a certain common background that I can assume. Everybody knows how to cook, right? They may not, you know, enjoy cooking or be gourmet cooks, but they all understand what a recipe is. They understand what ingredients are. So if they understand what ingredients are, then they know what data is, because the data is the ingredients for a computer recipe.
3,500 women ranging in age from their teens to their 70s have gone through this course, which is the only one of its kind in the country. The proof that Brecker's teaching method works is in hundreds of letters that she gets from students. Many of them say, "I learned all I needed to know," which is the highest compliment. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Wendy Woods.
Stuart, maybe Byte Magazine ought to run those classes to get that 5% on up their ways.
That's a good idea. Gary, we have two people joining us now, and I'd like to introduce Adele Goldberg, who is the manager of the System Concepts Lab at Xerox PARC. Adele is also president of ACN, the Technical and Scientific Computer Society. And next to Adele is Jan Lewis, formerly with Microsoft and Infocorp, among others, and now president of the Palo Alto Research Group.
Adele, well, this is actually a question for both of you. I'll start with Adele. In your roles in the computer industry and in the research work you've done, you have to predict sort of what's happening, where the markets are going to be, things of that sort. Do you see a market, a software market, say, for women specifically, or is that just so general that the word process is a word process, a spreadsheet's a spreadsheet?
Well, two answers to your question. First, I don't spend my time predicting the market so much as predicting the future and trying to come up with innovative new ideas that will change the marketplace.
Okay.
Secondly, I don't distinguish between men and women. I think they're people, and I think the previous segment discussing the computer examples, you kept talking about the child and exciting the child. I'm out to excite children and adults in the software that we present.
Now, Jan, what was your experience? I mean, you've come a long way as a woman in this business. I mean, did you have hurdles? Did you have problems? What was the experience you had?
You know, the interesting thing is there probably were hurdles and problems. I don't think I realized it until probably about 5 years ago. When I got out of college, the first thing I wanted to do was be a programmer because that was a good field for women, and I never thought of it in terms of discrimination. In 1974, I went into sales for informatics. I was the first female of a 100-person sales force, and I really was in a fishbowl. At this point, a typical high-tech sales force will be about 50-50. At that point, I still hadn't thought in terms of discrimination. As you start getting toward the top, you start realizing that you really have more opportunities if you go off and you start your own company and you start your own thing. At least this is what I realized. And you don't.
Seems to be a sort of recurring theme that the upper levels of the management of the company are difficult to penetrate them.
I think there are exceptions, but if you look at the examples that are out there, by and large, the really upper levels have, in fact, started their own companies. And this is really the direction I've gone in, and at this point I feel no problems whatsoever in anybody I deal with in terms of suppliers, in terms of clients, in terms of employees or prospective employees. And I think what I've really done, the tack I've taken, is I have just simply ignored what may or may not have been the obstacles and gone for being the best in anything I do and going in that direction.
Adele, is there some concern that girls, young girls who don't get familiar with computers and so on, will be at some disadvantage when they get to be adults and get into the professional world? I mean, it might not have mattered whether you played with model airplanes, but it may matter if you didn't play with computers.
I think that is true of not just girls, but boys as well now. It's like never having a pencil and paper in your hand and expecting to get a job when you're an adult. It's becoming more and more imperative to at least have an understanding of what computers are about and how you can use them. One of the things that have been talked about here today has been the importance of role models. I want to emphasize the importance of also having some jobs related to what you're interested in and getting some experience. I don't think we would hire any longer anyone who hasn't had some computing experience and done some real work in the computing field, even though they just graduated from school. You expect them to know and have experience using the tool, if not doing the science about the tool.
Now, suppose you are a young girl, like we talked about Gary's daughter before. I don't like computers. I'd rather have horses or paint or something. I mean, is that a concern of a parent because of what you say?
There are days when I don't like computers, and I'd rather have horses and paint for a while. I don't think it should be a concern. I think that different people are going to be interested in different things. I have two daughters. I do not have computers in the house for them to play with. Right now I have pianos and art supplies and other people, and I just assume that as they grow up they develop their particular interest. I do expect them in school to have some computer experience, and I will give them some as well so they understand.
Do you see a positive trend here? That is are we working in the right direction now? That more and more women are being involved in computer technology or not?
Absolutely, both in the early levels. I think there is a natural inquisitiveness on the part of children, and as long as nothing stands in their way, in other words, as long as a computer is there for them to play with and nobody thinks it's something verboten for them, I think it goes in that direction.
So
I think also in terms of business nowadays, I disagree, by the way, with that 2% of purchasers. I see women, the surveys I've done in the Fortune 2000, the number of women who are doing the purchasing is increasing dramatically at this point. So I see a great move in the direction of women as well as men simply using computers.
I'm sorry we're out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We just have enough time to go to our commentator, Paul Schindler, for his closing thoughts.
As the father of 2 girls, ages 5 and 1, the subject of this show has special meaning to me. In my other job as senior West Coast editor of Information Week, I wrote a cover story on women in computing. And frankly, it makes me as mad as hell to see how badly women are underused in the computer business. I think it should make you mad too, whether you're a man or a woman. Let me tell you why. If you're a woman, you should be mad because the accident of your birth puts you at a permanent disadvantage in the computer business. Sure, your disadvantage in this field's less than in other fields, but so what? It's still a disadvantage. If you're a man, you should be mad because you're watching a terrible waste of human resources. I hope no one still argues in this day and age that women aren't as smart as men. If they are as smart, they should be half the DP workforce, but they're not. That means, on the face of it, that millions of women who could be the best people in computing are doing something else. That's a shame. Now, I'm not saying hire women because they're women. I'm saying hire the best person for the job, regardless of sex. That's my opinion. I'm Paul Schindler.
I'm Susan Chase, sitting in for Stuart Chaffee. In the Random Access file this week, Franklin Computer Corporation unveiled the first personal computer not made by Apple to be compatible with Apple software. Franklin filed for reorganization under federal bankruptcy laws last year after a lengthy legal battle with Apple over previous alleged copyright infringement. The new Ace 2000 will come in 3 models, all priced under $1,000, about $600 less than Apple's 2C and 2E models. Franklin says shipments will begin this week. Apple Computer continues to improve its own products. Apple will offer a memory upgrade for its 2E that will expand its memory to almost twice that of the IBM PC. Other improvements to be announced this month include a higher capacity floppy disk drive, a color monitor, and software that makes the machine more like the Macintosh. AT&T and Atari are reportedly negotiating an arrangement for Atari to sell some of its ST computers through AT&T. Such an agreement would give Atari a major customer for its new computer, while giving AT&T a low-cost entry into the personal computer market. Officially, both companies declined to confirm the negotiations. Get ready to put away your Lotus 123 spreadsheet program. A new program called Javelin goes beyond the current spreadsheet columns and rows by giving users the ability to look at data in almost a dozen different forms. Javelin allows users to see where data came from, the logic that determined the formula used, and which pieces of data are affected when any variable is altered. The program is designed for IBM PCs with at least 512K of memory and will sell for about $700. And now for more software news, here's Paul Schindler with his review.
You know, getting organized must be difficult for all of us, judging from the number of software packages that promise to help, MaxiThink, for example, or ThinkTank. But every time a need becomes clear, someone comes along and builds a better mousetrap, or in this case, a better thought trap. They call Da Vinci a renaissance in thinking. They may be right. Da Vinci is faster, cheaper, and more flexible than any other outline program on the market. It uses color well and includes both a calculator and a calendar. Your outline can contain up to 5 levels, each of which can contain 99 topics, although there's an overall limit of 255 headings. Each heading can be as long as 60 characters. Each can have 50 lines of text associated with it. This text can then be exported into your word processor. If you change your mind about the order of subjects, reorder them. If you decide to make subtopics into topics and vice versa, you can do that too. This thin book tells you all you need to know about how to run the program. That's how simple it is. Da Vinci from Applied Microsystems, Roswell, Georgia, costs $60 and offers the best outlining help on the market. It's not copy protected. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. See you next time.
The Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by grants from AFIPS, the American Federation of Information Processing Societies, a nonprofit federation of 11 national societies for computer professionals. AFIPS, Leadership and Service in Computer and Information Technology. Additional funding is provided by McGraw-Hill, publishers of Byte. Byte's detailed technical articles on new hardware, software, and languages cover the latest in microcomputer technology worldwide. Byte, the international standard.